Hey everybody, welcome back. Part 2. Oh, this is good stuff here. Shout out to those of you who put your headphones on while you're walking and doing your exercises, laying in the bed, want something to listen to, something that's meaningful on YouTube. See, I don't just do beef. I mean, people pop up, old YouTube friends of mine, they pop in. I ain't heard from them in 3-4 years. They pop up in the middle of a beef and they think that's what I'm on and that's what I do. Come on, man. Have a seat. Khalil Amani really has content. My fucking God. My whole life is, I could talk about my life from here until I die and never get through it. For heaven's sakes. I wrote 6 books. I was on 6 national TV shows. You think I can't talk about anything other than a nigga and a beef? I just wanted to say that. But welcome back for part 2. We are talking about my life after I left the Yahweh Hebrew Israelite cult in 1985. And I'm honing in on just a couple years, 85 and 86. These are the most important and crucial years, and I want to hone in on them, and I want to show you receipts. That's right. I want to show you what led me to becoming a government informant. It's not for any of the bullshit reasons that this person or that person might have said. If you want the truth, you go to the source. You don't need second and third hand motherfuckers to tell you about my life. The fuck is that about? I said you don't need second and third hand motherfuckers in country bumpkin towns to tell you about my life. You see what you see on the screen? That's my book. That's 373 pages of Khalil Amani's life. How dare a nigga on YouTube try to regurgitate and upchuck and vomit and hurl my life? A nigga that's so documented that he wrote his own book about his own situation, and then a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist also wrote a book about my life. I said there are 2 books, there are 2 books written about Khalil Amani's life. A personal memoir on the right, and a book about the cult, which I'm in that book with 3 or 4 pictures of me, written by a lady who won 2 Pulitzer Prizes in journalism. How dare a bitch nigga on YouTube thinks he can cover my life. He can talk about my life. Oh, you can talk about it all you want. But when you start the deviation, when you start the lying, when you start trying to flip the narrative and make it fit your puny, small worldview, that's when I have to shit on you. Yeah. But we're doing this series with the receipts, with some reading from my book, with some reading from this other book, and even some videos we'll be pulling out as we go along here. If you haven't seen part 1, I suggest you go back so that you can get the gist of the conversation. If you haven't seen part one, I suggest you start there. And therefore, when you roll into this part two, you'll be up to speed. That's right. And so Khalil Amani was in a cult from 1980 to 1985. In 1985, I got out. I stayed with my father, and I ran into an old high school acquaintance that put me on to the drug game. That's in part one. He put me on to the drug game. I was green and naive as fuck. Dude had me running drugs from Miami to DC. I wasn't selling them. I was just what they call a courier. You know? I was taking the drugs up. They call him a drug mule. I was a drug mule. Yeah. I needed fast money, and dude said he'd pay me $2,500 for one quick overnight trip. I said, shit. I didn't make $2,000 in a month working at no job. Hell yeah. I was willing to take the risk because I gotta admit, at 25, fresh out of the Yahweh cult, I was naive, I was stupid, I was ignorant, I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't even think about the possibility of getting caught with drugs in an airport and how that would pan out. I didn't think about it. It wasn't a thought in my mind. Well, we're going to get into this story, but just understand, when you hear second and third party Negroes try to recount my story and then diverge and waver and try to suggest another narrative, and they can't bring you any type of proof, they can only speculate and theorize and hypothesize, know that these type of bastards simply want to muddy up my name. They want to muddy up my story. That's all they want to do. But we document it over here. And really, no one's listening to them anyway. You know, 2 or 3 people. Okay, 20, 30 people. But the beauty is they can fact check. They can fact check another YouTuber by simply coming over here and listening to the first person, the first hand narrative. That's easy. And I don't know why anyone would want to take the word of someone who's totally unrelated to the situation, when again, there are 2 books written about Khalil Amani's life. All right? So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to be reading from this book right here. Let me do a little overlapping. I'm going to go back and just read a little bit of what I read on part 1. But I've done something a little different. I've actually taken pictures of the pages I need to read, and then I'm going to put them on the screen. I can read better like that instead of trying to read through the lens of a camera. So let's go. Let's go. My first job for him, fly a couple of kilos to DC. No sweat, I thought. How much did I get paid? $2,500. For me, I'd never had that kind of money in one lump sum. I didn't know that the price of a kilo of pure coke was going for $18,000. And then I didn't know about stumping on it, cutting it, or putting a 1 or 2 on it. That means taking mannitol or baking soda and measuring the same amount of it to the amount of cocaine and mixing it with the coke, making 1 kilo into 2 kilos, doubling your profit. Later, I met brothers who were stomping on their shit 3 times. My friend Cheap put me in business. He had a hotel and a rent-a-car waiting for me at National in D.C. All I had to do is wait for someone to pick it up. I didn't have to collect any money. This first job was a little scary. Not the plane ride and the possibility of getting busted. I wasn't sophisticated enough to know that I could get some heavy time if caught. I was leery about who was coming to my hotel to pick up the package. When the doorbell rang, I jumped up and peeked out the peephole. There was a man and a woman standing outside. I was about to find out firsthand the power of cocaine. As they came in, I saw that they were cool people. We introduced ourselves and I gave the brother the package. While I talked a minute, his lady friend, who was simply gorgeous, went to use the bathroom. After a few minutes, she came out and we said our goodbyes. As I shook her hand, I felt her put something in my hand. She looked me right in the eyes as if to say, "Be cool, brother, and take this." Her man was standing next to me, or next to her. I didn't want to start no shit and get her ass or my ass whipped up in here, so I smiled and held on to whatever it was that she was passing me. After I'd closed the door behind them, I looked down and unclenched my fist. She'd written her phone number on a piece of paper and told me to call her in 1 hour. Her name was Kathy. Kathy, as I said, was simply gorgeous, light, bright, and damn near white. A Vanessa Williams type. Oh, you better believe I was going to call this sister. I watched the clock for an hour and then waited every minute after that so I didn't look too desperate to get with her. About an hour and 15 minutes was all I could hold out. I called her. She said she'd be over in 20 minutes and wanted to know if I had some coke. Sure, I told her. I had a little cocaine on me because Cheap had told me how these bitches go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I hooked up a little trick package. Oh, she was gonna have to pay, and her pussy was the price. I learned from this experience that crack could get me plenty of pussy, and I don't mean that crackhead, street-walking, skanky-ass pussy. Kathy was a college-educated business type with a good job downtown. But tonight, she'd be my chicken-head nasty slut. Please believe that. Believe it. Since she played her man right in front of me, I was going to go Miami player on her ass. I wasn't going to dilly-dally around with her and hope she lets me smell the pussy. I'm coming straight at her the minute she walks in the room. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. She's here. Okay, player, let's do this. Soon as she walked into the room, this bitch pulls out her works. She had a Pyrex glassware, a torch, baking soda, and a crack pipe. She's ready, but I'm ready too. Condoms on the nightstand. I go lay down on the bed. I speak to her as though she's my bitch and we've known each other forever. Come here. Suck my dick. That's good. Oh, that's good. Now take your shit off. You's a fine motherfucker. Don't worry, I'll let you hit the pipe. Just keep sucking my dick. Now give me that rubber. Fuck me, bitch. You want to hit that pipe, don't you? Well then, you better fuck me like you ain't never fucked before, or I'll pack my shit up and send your ass home. I could not believe what I just did. I could not believe a woman of her caliber went out like that. I can't believe that crack is that damn good. I'll never try no shit like that. Never. Too much power. This woman gave herself to me any way I wanted, just to hit the devil's dick. Now I was addicted to crack myself, not to smoking it. Hell no. I'm addicted to the power that crack wields. I'm addicted to how crack can make the finest sister give up the panties. Kathy became my bitch every time I came to town. She'd pick me up from the airport, take me to dinner, take me out dancing, and then go to bed. She did it because she knew I'd reward her with some crack. She could go all night with that shit and then get up and go to work. She was a functional crackhead. She never lost weight or any of those things associated with the drug. Kathy just liked to get high and fuck. I was meeting so many women through the drug thing. I also heard that folk like Sugar Ray Leonard and Mayor Marion Barry were sucking the devil's dick. I heard that shit about Barry long before we actually saw him on TV. Damn! That shit was true. Yeah, he was set up all right. But the motherfucker had to be doing it to get set up. You don't entice a mayor, or anybody for that matter, to try crack cocaine for the first time and then bust him. He wielded that pipe like the best crackheads out here. Jesus Louise. About 3 months of going back and forth from Miami to DC running coke had become, start over. After about 3 months of going back and forth from Miami to DC running coke, I was becoming the slime that I knew I hated. I had this other girlfriend named Ida. She was a 40-year-old registered nurse at Howard University Hospital that loved crack, loved sex, and as I found out, loved women. One night I took Ida and Kathy out together to a club called Triples. If you're from DC, you know what I'm talking about. They both knew what the deal was. They were both my bitches. But it didn't stop me from hollering at other women. This night, both of them wanted me to come home with them. I straight up told both of them that tonight, I'm fucking both of y'all together at the same time. And then I want to see the two of you fuck. I had no knowledge that either one of them was bisexual, but I didn't give a fuck. I had The Rock on my side, and my pockets were fat. Do you think that they didn't do it? You damn skippy they did. Kathy had never had a lesbian encounter. Ida was an expert pussy eater, I found out that night. I hooked up a little piece of crack and let them loosen up a bit. After they were into their groove, I was ready for some freak action. I told Ida to undress Kathy while I leaned up against the wall, or while she leaned up against the wall, the kitchen wall. While Kathy continued to take hits off the pipe, Ida unbuttoned her blouse and unsnapped her bra and went crazy on her tits. I sat at the dining room table and got off on it. I was the man. I was living out the all-American male fantasy, a motherfucking menage a trois. Lay here, put it there, suck on this, lick that. You would have thought I was a fucking porno movie director the way I was manipulating those bitches into ungodly positions. By the end of the night, I was knocked out from them double teaming my ass as they continued eating each other up. That's how I was living. I was a drug dealer and a player. I was straight pimping. I made bitches finding new bitches for me. Ida was the champion of pulling hoes. We'd be out in the clubs, and she'd ask me which one of these bitches in here did I want to fuck tonight, and she'd pull them for me. I was making money hand over fist. I was confident. I was paid. I was slime. The summer of '85 came. I heard that the Yahwehs were planning another national tour. They did. I caught up with them in New York. Yahweh Ben Yahweh was speaking at Madison Square Garden. I told myself that I'd attend the rally. Maybe I'd see Ricardo and give him a few ends because I knew that quota shit was in full effect. This would be the first time that my wife sees me. They'll all be looking at me when I walk up in there. I wonder will they try to hurt me. Nah, too many people and non-members for that. The day of the rally, I brought the older sister from Newark who had been a member of my congregation but had since left. She was all grown up now, and she was through with the cults as well. When we walked up in there, it was like E.F. Hutton. When we walked, people listened. I fell up in there, jewelry down, Rolex watch, Jerry curl, silk shirt, tailored pants, and a white leather coat. You couldn't tell me shit. The Hebrews were looking at me sideways, frontways, with mean faces, and a few sisters were trying to look at me like, catch me later, baby. I saw Ricardo, but we didn't speak. They were watching him because they knew he was my boy. It was a major crime to talk to an ex-member. We were the devil in Yahweh Ben Yahweh's eyes. But I met up with him in Newark as they passed out literature and we talked. I knew that Yahweh Ben Yahweh was on his case. He was on his way out. He wasn't trying to run no jive-ass Yahweh talk to me. I was out and he knew it. He just looked me up and down, shaking his head at the way I looked. Yeah, I had a Rolex watch just like Yahweh Ben Yahweh. Yeah, I had a fat knot in my pocket and I had bitches on my jock. He knew I was out. It was just a matter of time and my boy Ricardo would wake up and get the hell out of Dodge. End of that chapter. Are y'all enjoying the reading? So yeah, as you read and as I read to you, I was going back for 3 or 4 months back and forth from Miami to DC, from Miami to DC. And in those short 3 months, I was bagging some of DC's finest bitches. Yes, I was transporting drugs, but I also had my own little stash of cocaine because as I just read to you, I realized that these bitches go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. In other words, they go crazy for that white powder and that rock. I always had me $3,000-$4,000 of cocaine that was just mine. Oh, I didn't need it. I was a fine motherfucker, and my street name was Prince. This is another picture right here. This is me, a month out of Yahweh. Just got a jerry curl. It's looking crazy because I just got the pool. I'm starting to gain my weight now. I went from probably 115, 118 pounds. In this picture right here, the picture was taken by my brother, by the way. He was out there. He was trying to get his photography thing on. And my brother even said, "You look like a model, brother. You got model looks." I said, "I take some pictures, nigga." But in this picture, I'm about up to about 130 pounds now. I'm fine as fuck. Yeah, I got on, I know you can't see them, but I do got on swimming trunks. See, back in the 80s, we were wearing those little fancy schmancy Speedo swimming trunks that showed a lot of skin. Oh, I had some beautiful legs, y'all. My thighs, my calves, because I was a dancer all my life. So I had naturally wonderful legs. No chicken legs. No legs like I missed, leg day at the gym. Oh no. My upper body was growing. My chest was developing. I always had a big dick, so that was never a problem. I was a fine motherfucker. A fine motherfucker with money in his pockets and cocaine at his disposal. I said, Kathy, the chick I just read about, she worked a government job in downtown DC, and she was a fucking 9.5 on the Richter scale of beauty. As a matter of fact, to this very day, as I speak to you, and I've been through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women in my time, but this woman named Kathy that worked in the government office, but was a crackhead by night, she had the prettiest pussy I've ever seen. I swear for God. And back in the 80s, they weren't doing all that crazy bald head shaving, looking like prepubescent little girls like they do today. No, she had a bush. She looked like she had buckwheat in a headlock, hairy pussy, but it was shaped. It was tapered up. It was like a upside down triangle. It was V-shaped. Oh, it was beautiful. Every hair was in place. She kept that thing perfectly V-shaped, like an upside down pyramid. And her lips, her pussy lips, her whole vagina, it was a beautiful sight to see. But I wasn't about no one particular woman. And the other woman I just read about, Ida, she was a registered nurse at Howard University Hospital. She would administer drugs and do IVs and, work next to doctors by day, but by night, crackhead, bisexual, suck some titties, lick some pussy. She was about that life. But those were my two main bitches for those 3 or 4 months that I was, falling prey to the street life. I'm giving you what it is. You wanted it rough, rugged, and raw? Well, you got it. Mind you, I'm still thinking incessantly about my wife and children down in Miami in the cult. Did I still love my wife even though I was being bombarded by some of the baddest bitches in Miami and DC? Hell yeah. I loved my wife. And as I said in part 1, I had no knowledge that my wife was banging Yahweh ben Yahweh. That came along later. I'm trying to tell y'all my story in proper context. Don't listen to these bitch niggas out here trying to tell my story. I'm telling you my story. I didn't know. Shit was secret. It was held back from me. I found out maybe a year after leaving the Yahweh cult that my wife was fucking Yahweh ben Yahweh. That's how that went. But as every day that I was away from the Yahweh cult, I was gaining strength. I was gaining poise. I was gaining ego. I was gaining awareness. I was coming into my Macism. I was coming into my player mode. I was realizing that I wasn't an average looking nigga, that I was a good looking man. Thus, the streets dubbed me Prince. Oh yeah, every day away from the cult, because the cult had taken my self-esteem. When I left the Yahweh cult, I was so beaten down, my ego was so trodden upon that I thought no woman would want me. I thought I was trash. But when I started eating food, my real body came back. Not that 110-pound body in Yahweh, my real body, 120, 130, 140 pounds. No fat. Six-pack abs, flat stomach, beautiful legs and thighs, beautiful calves, and even I had beautiful feet. I kept my feet pedicured. I was a pretty boy. And when I realized who I was, when I realized how good I looked, and I had this money that I was making, being a drug mule, I had this cocaine for the trick parties, for the so-called freak-offs. We didn't call them freak-offs like P. Diddy and them today, but that's what they were, freak-offs. You couldn't tell me shit. But again, every day I thought about my wife many times. And every day I thought about my two beautiful babies that I had to leave in the Yahweh cult. If my wife had come at this time, I would have instantly stopped my drug mule stuff, my freak off shit with these bitches, Kathy and Ida, and other bitches. I mean, when I left, within 6 months of me leaving the cult, I actually had probably 5 or 6 girlfriends, bona fide girlfriends, that thought that I was their boyfriend. And some of them knew that I wasn't trying to be monogamous. Because one thing about getting out of this Yahweh cult after 5 years, and if you know anything about cults, one of the ways that they make you submit is they use sex against you. So the last year and a half before I actually left the cult, me and my wife were very rarely having sex. The last 8 months before I left the cult, we weren't fucking at all. Matter of fact, I wasn't even living in the same dormitory room as my wife. Yahweh ben Yahweh had kicked me out of the big house and put me in a big ass warehouse with a bunch of niggas. Facts. So I was a 25-year-old man. Now, you know, most young men, when they come out of high school, between ages 18 and say 25, that's when they sowing their wild oats. They're sowing their royal oats or their wild oats. They slinging dick like 90 Go West. I mean, that's if they're not married and in love with some one woman. But a lot of young men from 18 to 25 who are single, not in love, they looking to fuck a new bitch every weekend from the club. But I missed that. From 20 to 25, I was a pious Hebrew Israelite that was barely fucking my own wife. The glory years from 18 to 25, I wasn't fucking. For me, from 20 to 25, I wasn't fucking. I wasn't in the clubs. I was trying to be religious and political and nationalistic and culturally aware. I wasn't slinging shit. I had come up to my ears. We weren't even masturbating because all that shit was like, taboo. And so the last year before I left the cult, from 84 to 85, I might have fucked my wife once or twice in that year. Imagine a 24-year-old man only sticking his dick in pussy 2 times. Imagine that. Imagine a 24-year-old man about to be 25. For the last 9 months before I left the cult, I got no pussy. And I wasn't masturbating. You better know I was young, dumb, and full of cum. You better know if you could have just blown on my cock, I would have exploded. No masturbation and no sex for about 9 straight months at the age of 24 years old. I was a walking horn dog. But when I got out, when I met this dude Lloyd, not me, part 1, I talk about a man named Lloyd. He's the one that turned me on to the drug game. He's the one that made me a drug mule, Lloyd, also known as Cheap. When I met Cheap, man, oh man. Oh yeah. But I knew I was about to tear up some asses, some women, the day I went down to the beauty shop and I had them do something with this 5 years of afro I had on my head. When I walked out of there, again, this picture right here, I just got the pool, so my hair is all crazy looking. But when I walked out of that beauty shop, if I could fuck me, I'd fuck my own self. I mean, the transition from 5 years of afro to jerry curl to people, the first day I got my jerry curl, cousins and just people that I was walking up to, damn, you look like Prince, or you look like Morris Day. I knew I was about to fuck me a lot of women. Because in my eyes, Prince and Morris Day are some good looking ass brothers. And so, about 3-4 months, I ran these drugs from Miami to Washington, D.C. I never had an issue with the law enforcement. I never got stopped. I never got pressed. I never got taken in the back room. I'm sure if I had continued to do what I was doing, I would have ended up having to deal with law enforcement, because every good thing comes to an end. But the reality of it is, people, as I said in part 1, I was broke as a joke. I needed some fast money. I needed to get out of my father's house. That's all. I just needed to get out of his house. I needed to get out of my father's house because I ain't like the nigga and the nigga didn't like me. That's just what it was. We never had a good relationship. It was tumultuous going back to as far back as I can remember. But bless him for allowing me to come back and stay with him. Yeah, here I am, 1986. I was good looking. Damn, I was good looking. Tuxedo down, accepting award for dance. But I'm going ahead of myself. We'll talk about why this tuxedo, I got this award, because I was a dancer. Ballet, modern, jazz, tap, African, Caribbean. I did it all. But we'll come back to that. But this is late 85, 86. Yeah, we'll say 86. These are the years I want to focus on, 85 and 86. But I did the drug thing, man. I did the drug thing. But guess what? While I was doing the drug thing, I enrolled in college. That's right. I enrolled back in my local community college where I used to go and where I was a dancer. That's right. And when I went back to the local community college, a 2-year college, I was celebrated, and they wrote an article about my return to college. Let me show it to you. Here it is. April 9th, 1986. By now, I've left the cult, but I got to go back and tell you, I left the cult, yeah. But by now, I wasn't a drug mule, and I wasn't doing no drug deals no more. I'm jumping here, but I'm going to go back. But I just wanted to show you, since I showed you the picture of me in the tuxedo, I was attending this school. See, Falcon Times, April 9th, 1986, Miami-Dade Community College. Former Yahweh dancer, that's me, returns to Dade or to Miami-Dade. I just wanted to show y'all that. We'll come back to this stuff at a later point. Because by the time they actually do this interview, I'm done with the whole drug thing. All right. Oh, my story is a web. Charlotte's Web ain't got shit on Khalil Amani. And I don't know how I still have these pictures from over 35, 40 years ago. I don't know how. I'm not a pack rat, but I just kept shit. I think I made a conscious decision and effort to know that there would be a day that I would probably want to write a book about my life, and I would probably try to do TV shows and possibly try to make a movie of my life. So I made a conscious effort and decision to try to save as much receipts, pictures, and to capture the moment and the times. But this picture again, I'm 1 month out of the Yahweh cult. My brother, who was, fancying himself as a photographer back then, he said, "Brother, you handsome. You like a model." And my brother came out to the pool and was taking these pictures of me. I just was posing. As I said in part 1, the pool, I'm outside of my father's condominium at the pool. And because I didn't seek therapy and, psychologists or psychiatrists, ain't had no money, that's what I would do. I would sit at the pool and I would reflect on my life and strategize on where do I go from here. I'm 25 years old, fresh out of a cult, no job, no skill. My wife and children are still down there in that bullshit. And this is where I meet a man with my same birth name, Lloyd. And it is Lloyd, aka Cheap, who turns me on to the drug game. Again, go back to part 1 if you want to hear that conversation, how I got started. All right. the next phase. When did I stop selling drugs? When did I stop becoming a drug mule? When did I stop becoming a courier? Let's do this. And I'm doing this for you, my people. Never mind that there's a bitch nigga out here that is out here lying and claiming that I only stopped becoming a drug mule and a courier and selling drugs is because I got caught. It's not true. If you hear that narrative, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's a convenient lie. Because when you talk about people that become government informants for the FBI or for a local police department, usually 9 out of 10 times, the narrative is that the government informant got caught doing criminality. So he weaseled his way out of less prison time or no prison time by striking a deal with local law enforcement. Hey, if you don't put me in jail, I'll do this for you. I know who this person is. I'll give you the head of the drug cartel. In my case, I'll give you the head of the Yahweh cult. That's the narrative that niggas, 1 or 2 niggas have said about me. Because it's convenient. And because it's sanitary. Because it fits in with what we know from TV and books and movies. Government informants usually become government informants because they get caught up in criminality themselves, and to keep themselves from doing prison time or to lessen their time in prison or jail, they become cooperating witnesses. None of that shit is true. For Khalil Amani, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I don't fit into what you saw on TV and what you saw on the movies. Nobody, not the Metro-Dade Police Department, not the City of Miami Police, not the ATF, not the DEA, or not the FBI stepped to Khalil Amani when he was taking drugs from Miami to DC. Nobody. I never got caught. And the main reason I never got caught is because I didn't do it but for about 3 or 4 months. I never got on their radar. You got to do it for a long time, and that's how you get on the radar of police and FBI. I did it for 3 or 4 months. What I'm about to do now in this part, I'm going to read to you from my book, the closure and the ending of me going from Miami to DC, running drugs and all that shit. Though it was fun and exciting and I fucked hella bitches in that 3 or 4 month period, I knew that I wasn't a street nigga. I knew I wasn't a head busser. I knew I wasn't a goon. I knew I wasn't about that life. I knew I wasn't no hardened criminal. I knew I wasn't going to be a predicate felon. I was a fucking pretty boy. And I knew that jail and prison was no place for a nigga that looked as good as me. Not to mention I'm only 5'7" and 130 pounds. Oh no. I had fun while it lasted, but after about 3 or 4 months, I knew that my time was up doing the whole drug mule, going from Miami to Washington, D.C. and fucking, I was slinging big dick all over. Chicks couldn't believe how I was putting it down. My little Prince looking ass. Had a body just like Prince, but I was slinging it. I was putting it down. But in all seriousness, I did it because I needed money, because I was trying to get out of my father's place. And indeed, in fact, in a short few months, I got my own apartment and I got me a car. I was getting $2,000 or $2,500 each trip, and I was doing that shit once, sometime twice a week for 3 or 4 months. I was doing that. My pockets was fat. I was doing that because the goal for me was, the end game for Khalil Amani was not to become a regular old drug dealer, a regular old drug mule for years and years and years. No, the end game was to get enough money, $10,000, $15,000, whatever, and work on getting my children out of the cult and have a place where they can call home. That was always at the forefront of my mind. No matter how many bitches I fucked, no matter how many clubs I danced in and had a good time and partied, the end game was to get that money so I can work on getting my kids out of the cult. Now, let's go to how I finally stopped running drugs from Miami to Washington, D.C. I wrote a chapter in my book. It's called Stop It Now. You see, I published this book way back in 2007, over 15 years ago. Stop it now. What did I mean by stop it now? I'm talking about this stupidity and ignorant and profligate and nasty life that I was living as a drug mule, as a drug dealer. That's what I meant when I said stop it now. See, when bitch niggas try to say that there's a different narrative, they got to deal with this. 2007, before I knew any of these niggas on YouTube. 2007, I wrote this. Let us read. When I heard the good news that Ricardo was out, I flew from DC to Miami to get him. I knew what he'd have to endure as far as getting him somewhere to stay and some money in his pocket. With his mother dead and his father unknown, the only other place he could go was back to the house in Carroll City that was being occupied by his mother's ex-boyfriend, Mr. Clark. Not me, a different Clark. Mr. Clark had let Ricardo's younger brother, Donald, live there after he left. Technically, the house belonged to Ricardo and his brother, but Mr. Clark had put up the money to keep it from going into foreclosure. Ricardo would need some intense therapy. I only knew one way to help him on his road to recovery: get him fed, fucked, and paid. I took him back to DC with me to introduce him to the world of players, drugs, and hoes. Looking at him, I could see just how green I used to be. We got him a jerry curl. I swear the boy looked like Billy D. Williams. I knew once he got his shit together, he'd put me to shame. This was the first time that I'd been out there with 5 or 6 women at one time. Ricardo had been doing that from his high school days, but he'd never done the shit that I was about to introduce him to. He stayed with Ida and I in DC. One night I told Ida that my boy needed freaking. Ida did anything I said. Without hesitation, she went into the kitchen and got some ice and put it in her mouth. Then she walked into the living room where Ricardo was sitting on the couch and dropped to her knees, unzipped his fly, and blew him with that ice still in her mouth. True story, y'all. I ain't give a fuck. I shared my bitches with my homies. I shared women. Shit. It was the funniest thing I'd seen in a long time. Ricardo didn't get it and didn't like it. His shit didn't get hard the least. He looked at me with the expression of, what gives? This shit is cold. I sat there and laughed my ass off. I told him not to worry. I had just the piece to knock his socks off. Kathy. Kathy was every bit 36, 24, 36. She was the Commodore's brick house. She was right out of a jet centerfold. Her body was simply flawless. I mean, there was not one scar on her pecan tan skin. So perfect was her body that even her pubic hairs were naturally V-shaped, pointing to the gap between her thighs. That's who I'm talking about. Remember a few minutes ago I told you about the woman, her vagina and the way her pubic hairs was so straight and so symmetrical, so geometrically shaped. I gave my nigga, I'm talking about my best friend. Y'all see my best friend. Let me show you a picture of my bestie. There he is. That's Khalil on the left. This was a couple years later. This was like 1987, 88. That's my best friend. He was in the Yahweh cult with me. He was my bestie. Looking like Billy D. Williams on the right. But that's how we was doing. We was fucking bitches. And when he got out of Yahweh, out of the cult, I flew his ass to DC and I let him have his way with one of my main bitches, Kathy. My first bitch, Ida, I made her suck his dick with ice cubes in her mouth. He ain't like that. I said, don't worry, homie. I got the right piece of pussy that you gonna be all right. But I had to warn him because although Kathy was a 9.5 on the Richter scale of beauty, she had a pussy that was so pretty. Her goddamn pubic was so shaped so beautifully, so geometrically shaped. She did have one flaw though. The bitch couldn't fuck. She didn't have good rhythm. And I told my homie here, I said, I'm gonna give you Kathy. The bitch is a dime piece. But I'm gonna tell you now, she can't really fuck. But you'll have fun, doing whatever you do with her. But this is the guy. I've been when you hear about Ricardo, this is the guy. He's still my best friend, and we in our 60s, 64 and 65. He's still my bestie. But when he got out of Yahweh, when he got out of the cult, I flew his ass to DC and turned him on to the world that I was living. Don't worry, we're getting to how I stopped selling drugs, but the backstory is fun and it's exciting. Now let's go back to our reading. This is the guy I'm talking about. And so the guy you just saw on the right that looked like Billy D, he stayed with Ida and I in DC. One night I told Ida that my boy needed freaking. Ida did anything I said. Without hesitation, she went into the kitchen and got some ice and put it in her mouth. Then she walked into the living room where Ricardo was sitting on the couch and dropped to her knees, unzipped his fly, and blew him with that ice still in her mouth. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in a long time. Ricardo didn't get it and didn't like it. His shit didn't get hard the least. He looked at me with an expression of, what gives? This shit is cold. I sat there and laughed my ass off. I told him not to worry. I had just the piece to knock his socks off. Kathy. Kathy was every bit 36, 24, 36. She was the Commodore's brick house. She was right out of a jet centerfold. Her body was simply flawless. I mean, there was not one scar on her pecan tan skin. So perfect was her body that even her pubic hairs were naturally V-shaped, pointing to the gap between her thighs. The average brother would have gotten lost in her beauty and tried to put handcuffs on her, lock her down. But as the ghetto cliche goes, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, and Kathy was a hoe. I was thinking, like, okay, now we're going to skip. That's good enough. You got the gist. You got the gist. I was doing my thing. I was a pretty boy. I was fucking bitches. I was running coke. All of that. My friend got out of the Yahweh cult. I brought him up there. I gave him. I'm such a nice guy, ain't I? Some of you niggas, you be handcuffing these hoes. Some of you niggas out there, you don't want to share your bounty, even with your closest homeboy. Me and my bro, man. I said, some of you niggas out there, you be trying to wife these bitches. You be trying to handcuff these hoes. But as I read to you, when my bestie got out of that Yahweh shit, I knew he needed money, place to stay, some food, and I knew he needed some bitches. But that's the kind of love and loyalty we got to this very day. Facts on top of facts. I had two of the baddest bitches in Washington, D.C., Ida, a registered nurse at Howard University Hospital, and Kathy, a government paying a bachelor's degree with a government job downtown with Mayor Marion Barry. And I gave those bitches to my man. That's what we was on. That's what we was on. You see us right here? Khalil on the left, my dog on the right. Let me show you a picture of us today, something more recent. Here we go. Khalil on the left again, and my dog on the right. In our 60s, we are still best friends, and we are growing beautifully and gracefully. We're aging. Yeah. We both was in that bullshit, that cult. And we both made it out. And we both made something of ourselves. We've shared a lot of women. I fucked some of his bitches. He's fucked some of my bitches over the years. We still together as besties. One of my best friends, I got like 3 or 4 best friends, but he's top dog. Best friend. Oh yeah, we got a story to tell. And he has a book coming out soon too. And his book is crazy smart, crazy important. Some of the most brilliant writing I've seen in a long time. I can't even believe it. My homie can write. And I'm helping him with his work. So y'all look out, stay tuned. I'll let y'all know when his book hit the shelves. But yeah, we've helped each other over the years. This brother has helped me. This brother you see right here, he's the one that helped me rescue my children from the cult. Helped me with money and helped me grab them up and take them to the airport and take me to the bus station. He's been very beneficial and influential in my life in dealing with just getting my children out of the cult. All right. Shout out to my friend. Let's get to it. Let's go back. Now we're going to see when I left the cult. I was not arrested by the FBI or the police for selling drugs or carrying drugs. That's a lie. Here we go. By October of 85, I had managed to get my kids away from the Yahweh cult. The first thing I did was tell my wife I wanted to take them shopping. An automatic hook. They all needed shit. One evening, she brought my daughter Couture out with her when she passed when she went out to pass out literature in the neighborhood. I met her at a corner. The three of us and another Yahweh sister went to the 103rd Street Mall. We stopped at a jewelry store. My wife wanted to use the bathroom. I was holding my daughter. When the two of them went to the bathroom, I simply walked out of the store with my daughter. By the time we'd gotten into the car and were pulling off, out came my wife and this sister screaming and banging on my window. I peeled off and left them in the parking lot. My daughter would return to her in a few days later, but eventually my wife let them come and live with her mom. That way, we both have access to them. I couldn't just walk up to the temple and ask to see my kids. I remembered what we did to Elijah. I wasn't about to step foot in there. That was suicide. Halloween came. This is 1985, y'all. Halloween came. So I flew home to take my kids trick-or-treating. I told Ida in D.C. I'd be back in a few days. That night, as I held my kids' hands and walked them around the neighborhood, something said to me, "Stop it now." Let me repeat that. I said Halloween came, so I flew home to take my kids trick-or-treating in Miami. I told Ida in Washington, D.C., I'd be back in a few days. That night, as I held my kids' hands and walked them around the neighborhood, something said to me, "Stop it now." I knew exactly what my mind was telling me. Stop this foolish drug dealing, or I'll be locked up like Yahweh ben Yahweh never could have locked me up. I couldn't fathom the thought of prison. That scared me. I had to stop drug dealing and some other shit that I was getting into. I had recently done my first stick up. We robbed a restaurant at gunpoint. I was headed down a bad road. But now my conscience was talking to my ass through those darling little children of mine. I had to stop being a thug and a hustler and a pimp, or my life would take an even deeper plunge. Did I stop drug dealing? Yes. That same night, at that exact moment, I never touched another piece of cocaine as of October 31st, 1986. I never went back to D.C. to get my clothes, jewelry, or any other possessions. I went cold turkey. It was over just like that, and just that easy. My children were too important to risk my freedom doing illegal shit. Now I would get an honest job and move on. You got it, people? Now, there is one typo here. I says October 31st, 1986. Actually, it was October 31st, 1985. That is a typo. That is a typo. Because October 31st, 1986, and if I left in April of 85, that would be over a year. And that would be a year in May, June, July, August, September, October. That would be a year and a half. And so that's off. I said the last time I touched a piece of cocaine was October 31st, 1985. That is a typo. And the reason we know it's a typo is because this chapter, which says stop it now, I let you know in the very beginning that it was 85. Let's just go back and review that. And so here it is in the same chapter right here. The summer of 85 came. This is in the same chapter. So that was a typo on my part. So October 31st, 1985 is the last time I touched a piece of cocaine. Got it? That would mean if we count the months, let's just say I started dealing with him in, we'll say May of 85, May, June, July, August, September, and then October. Okay, we're going to say 6 months. I said 3 or 4. Okay, let's correct the narrative. I did the whole drug thing about 6 months. And so we make corrections and we clarify and we clear up. We're human. Believe it or not, when I wrote that book, that 373-page book, guess who helped me write it and edit it and proof it? Hardly nobody. And so I got the date wrong in that. So my drug dealing, my drug mule days was about 6 months tops. But as I read to you, I stopped of my own free will, of my own volition. I stopped because I simply came from DC on October 31st, 1985, not 86. And I walked my children around the neighborhood, and this is a true story. Something told me, stop it now. I heard the voice as plainly as I hear my voice now. And I knew what the voice meant. That's all it said. It didn't say anymore. Just stop it now. And I knew that I had gotten enough money because that was the goal. Get the money so I can get the kids, so I can get me a place and a car. And I accomplished those things. And so there I was, walking the streets of Opelika, Florida. Opelika is a northern part of Miami, right next to Carroll City, where I grew up, and Rick Ross and Flo Rida and Pretty Ricky, and a lot of people grew up. Opelika. That's where my kids were staying with their grandmother, in Opelika. Opelika is an Arabic name for a little town, a little city, little town, little hood. But as I walked my 2 children in 85, my son would have been about 2.5, and my daughter would have been 4, just about, not quite 5 yet. So a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I took them trick-or-treating. I came back from running drugs from DC. I banged up. I was in DC. I fucked the dog shit out of Ida and Kathy and a couple others. And I was doing that shit back to back within hours of one another. Bang, shower, bang, shower, bang, shower. But I flew back that night to take my precious, beautiful children trick or treating. It was the first time. It was their first time trick or treating. Motherfuck you niggas that got something to say about Halloween and the occult and all that stupid shit. Paganism, fuck you. Every child should be able to dress up as a ghost or a goblin. Every child should be able to experience what it feels like going door to door and getting free candy. They're innocent. They don't have no concept of all that stupid shit y'all want to talk. And I was most happy even after being in a cult that taught against all that shit. I snapped out of it pretty quickly. And so October 31st, 1985, I flew in from DC, took my kids trick-or-treating. And as I walked those dark streets, street lights on, watching my children their smiling, wonderful faces as they go to door and get all this delicious candy. Something said to me, stop it now. And I stopped. I stopped at that very moment. I left pussy and jewelry. I left and bitches, and I left all kind of shit in DC. I never went back to even get my jewelry and stuff, clothes and shit. I didn't even go back. Oh, bitches was mad at me. But I knew that my children were too important for me to continue in this lifestyle, because I knew the end of being a drug mule is prison. And so as I close, I want to read that one more time and then we're out of here. Halloween came, so I flew home to take my kids trick-or-treating. I told Ida in DC I'd be back in a few days. That night, as I held my kids' hands and walked them around the neighborhood, something said to me, stop it now. I knew exactly what my mind was telling me. Stop this foolish drug dealing, or I'll be locked up like Yahweh ben Yahweh never could have locked me up. I couldn't fathom the thought of prison. That scared me. I had to stop drug dealing and some other shit that I was getting into. I had recently done my first stick up. We robbed a restaurant at gunpoint. I was headed down a bad road. But now, my conscience was talking to my ass through those darling little children of mine. I had to stop being a thug and a hustler and a pimp, or my life would take an even deeper plunge. Did I stop drug dealing? Yes. That same night, at that exact moment, I never touched another piece of cocaine as of October 31st, 1985. I never went back to DC to get my clothes, jewelry, or any other possessions. I went cold turkey. It was over just like that, and just that easy. My children were too important to risk my freedom doing illegal shit. Now, I would get an honest job and move on. And with that, we'll see you for part 3.